We are about to begin reading chapter 4 of Dracula, the Count's Revenge. But let us remember where we left off and what has happened so far. So, John went to the castle to drop off papers. He escaped when he realized that Dracula was a vampire, and he returned to London, only to find out that Dracula actually was moving to London. And there in chapter 3 is a picture of Dracula walking away from John and his wife Mina. John asked his bosses for some help, and they recommended that he go talk to a man named Van Helsing. So right now, they're trying to figure out maybe how they can stop Dracula the vampire. Now, as you read this chapter, I want you to think about things that you read that remind you of other things in life. Okay, so these questions will pop up on the Zaption. And for instance, if you read about a stagecoach, you might wonder what are other ways that people used to travel before there were cars. Okay, so it's questions and things that you can think about as you read new things in this chapter. All right, here we go. Chapter 4, The Count's Revenge. John spent the evening with Van Helsing, recounting the events that took place at Dracula's castle. John made sure to include every detail, including the fact that he never saw a single servant at the castle, which Van Helsing found particularly interesting. "Not another person, eh?" Van Helsing asked in his gruff voice. It was obvious to John that Van Helsing had dealt with some strange things in his life. He could hear it in his voice and see it in his eyes. "That is why he moved to London, John. Vampires need to feed on humans, and it seems as though Dracula ran out of victims to prey on in Transylvania." "But there were other people in the village that he could have fed on," said John. "You said that the innkeeper told you to stay away from the castle, right? That means that people in the area probably knew that Dracula was a vampire, or at least that he was a dangerous man. If Dracula started to feed on the local people, everyone would have known who was responsible. You see, Dracula needed to go to a place where he was anonymous. London is a huge, crowded city, and people come and go all the time. This is the perfect place for him to feed." John looked troubled. He was thinking about everything that had happened. "I am lucky to be alive. I can't believe that stagecoach driver took me to the castle knowing that a vampire lived there." "I don't think that stagecoach driver was a villager, John. Based on what you told me, I think it was Dracula himself." "But I saw the driver ride back down the road. How did he get back into the castle to answer the door so fast?" inquired John. "Vampires can take the form of animals. Did you see any animals around the castle while you were waiting at the door?" "Let me think. Oh, I saw a bat fly out of the woods towards the castle." John looked down and shook his head. "I should have gotten out of there right then. There is one thing I don't understand, Van Helsing. If Dracula is here to feed, and he knows that I know his secret, then why did he let Mina and I escape last night?" "Vampires are passionate creatures, John. You managed to get out of his castle alive, and you are probably the first person to ever do that. He wants revenge. He will probably go after those people that you care about first." John's eyes widened and his jaw dropped. "Mina!" John never ran so fast in all of his life. He was surprised that Van Helsing was able to keep up with him through the dark London streets. In fact, Van Helsing did not look the least bit winded, and actually seemed like he was enjoying himself. John realized that he probably lived for this type of thing. They arrived at the house and ran straight upstairs to the bedroom. Just as they entered the room, a bat flew out the window. Mina! John screamed. They found her lying on the floor with 2 small cuts on her neck. Is she dead? John asked Van Helsing. Don't worry, John. We got here just in time. Dracula was only able to lightly bite her. She just fainted, probably from fear. John felt better, but was confused by the look of concern on Van Helsing's face. Why do you look worried, Van Helsing? She will be okay, won't she? Yes, but she will be okay for the time being. But John, I must tell you that anyone who gets bit by a vampire will eventually... His voice trailed off. He did not want to say the next few words, but knew that John must know the truth. They will eventually turn into a vampire themselves. No! Cried John in disbelief. How long does it take? Is there anything that we can do to stop it? She has a few weeks, maybe a month, replied Van Helsing. And there is only one way we can stop this, John. We must kill the vampire who bit her. We must kill Dracula.